And that wraps up that quick hearing there in Idaho ahead of the sentencing that we are all anticipating next week. Let's bring in our guest to discuss. We have standing by trial attorney Gabriel Sepulveda-Sanchez is with us. Gabriel, your thoughts on what the judge is having to weigh in this case. This is one where there was so much attention, so much publicity that you had the defense constantly arguing that things needed to be sealed, kept under a gag, and even now they're saying that they fear for Bryan Kohberger's safety if this gag order was lifted the way that it has.
Yeah, you as a judge, you always want to protect the defendant's right to a fair trial. And in this case, since there's been a plea, the risk of prejudicing the defendant's rights to a fair trial is obviously it's gone because now he's pled guilty. He's going to be doing time. So I think the risk of the risk of the media prejudicing the trial and harming the defendant's right to a fair process is now diminished. So there's less of an argument for them to keep these records sealed or this information. There's less of an argument to have a gag order on the witnesses or parties involved in this case. You did mention that the judge did mention that there's still, there's even though he's going to be doing time, there's still an appeal that he may, there's still some appeals processes that he may invoke. Even though there was a waiver that plea, the appeal on the record doesn't necessarily mean it's black and white. There could be some other sort of appeals he can do. So there's still a risk of harming his right to the fair judicial process with the appeals. But right now that harm has been diminished because he's no longer going to be on trial, and there's that balance between the right for the defendant to have a fair trial and the right for us as the public to know what's going on and what happened in this case and to learn about this. So that's where that's where the balancing comes in: right to a fair trial, right to a fair process, versus our right as citizens and taxpayers of this country to learn about what's going on in our community and what happened here too.
Mm-hmm. And the rights of the victim family members, which they're not really spelled out as separate from the public. Mm-hmm. And they want, sometimes people want every single detail. Other mm-hmm. people want nothing about it. And in this case, you have 4 separate victims and a multitude of victim family members who all have different opinions and are going through a horrible journey separately. And you look at these kids, we know that, Ethan's parents, they don't want to attend next week's sentencing. Maddie, her mother and stepfather likely will not be there as well. The Gonzalez family, Kaylee's parents, they say they're not coming. We don't know about Xana's parents, but they have been so outspoken, the Gonzalez's, specifically Steve Gonzalez, and one of his criticisms of this deal that the state's brokered with Bryan Kohberger is he's not been forced to allocate, to provide an allocution as to exactly what happened. We've seen it with other killers like the BTK mm-hmm. killer, where part of the deal was you have to tell the family members what happened mm-hmm. exactly and owned up
if you can. There's no justification, but you want to hear.
Right. What's your take, Gabriel, on this deal, the way it was structured, and the fact that it doesn't appear that we've heard mm-hmm. that Kohberger is forced to give any more information? He can spend the rest of his life, if he chooses, and not say a word, despite the fact that some of the family members want that.
It's a really sad situation. The prosecutors, I wonder, they always thought in this case, why did they make this deal? Why did they take the death penalty off the table? And I think that, there was still I think this case is really circumstantial. And I think there's always a risk when you have a really highly circumstantial evidence case that there could be reasonable doubt there. So maybe there's something that the defense lawyer had some leverage in this situation where they were able to cut that deal. But I empathize with the family. I think they don't feel like this is justice. They want answers. They want to know more. It's hard. It's really a tough situation for them. And even if the gag order goes, they're not. I can understand why you don't want the media rushing the family members and trying to write books on this murder. And you know, I see there's a lot of different people you have to take into account in the situation. You know, 4 different family members lost their loved ones here. Some people might feel a certain way about it, and some people may be more open to talking and sharing with the public and sharing, you know, what's going on in their lives. But a lot of people don't. So it's a tough situation on all parts of it: the judge, the family, the DA. Ultimately, if you're a family member of the victims, I don't feel, it's hard to feel good about anything at all in this situation. You're not happy that he's not gonna, you know, this guy's just gonna live the rest of his life in prison. You're not able to get more information about, you know, the circumstances of this case, the why, you know, there's a lot the family members want to know too.
There's a lot, and you know, they're not a monolith, and there is not all of the victims. To your point, Gabriel, some victims' family members feel a certain way, others feel a different way. It's not that they all have to agree. These are 4 different families, and let's take a listen back together at Ethan Chapin's parents after they spoke out, knowing about what the deal would be in this case.
I think our initial response was like an eye for an eye. But then we've spent a ton of time talking about it with prosecutors. And for us, we always felt like this was a better deal. I mean, he gets put away and there's no appeal system to it. And there were so many kids, including our own, that had been subpoenaed that no longer have this hanging over their heads. I mean, we just all get to go live our life.
So certainly a separation there. That's, of course, an interview they did with the Today Show, again, not too long after this deal was reached, shocking everyone, but that's all going to culminate next week with that sentencing hearing that all eyes are going to be on, even if we don't know if he's going to speak, to see what the victims say and to see if there are any arguments on either side that we haven't heard before.
Yeah, well, it seems everybody is on board with the deal, and that's been already, they had a hearing on that to basically accept the deal, and now the final sentencing. What, Gabriel, quickly, you referenced, well, this might not be, if I'm a family member, I'd be like, what? This part of this deal is no appeals. So is there a gray area, or in what scenario could Bryan Kohberger 5, 10, 20 years from now have any standing in any courtroom if indeed he's entered into this guilty plea and waiving his right to an appeal?
Well, good question. As far as the appeals, there's all different types of appeals. So just because he might not be able to appeal the merits of the trial or the competency of the plea he entered into, there may be other sorts of appeals, that maybe some sort of a sentencing appeal, or I think it's important to remember that the Supreme Court justice, the Supreme Court runs, those laws are superseding all state laws too. So if there's a new Supreme Court case that, you know, the invalidates says that says that any plea deal done in a state court that says that there's no waiver of an appeal, if there's a Supreme Court case that says there's exceptions to that, and that's not necessarily black and white, consider situations where they find out this person is mentally ill while they did that plea bargain that wasn't apparent when they made the deal. There's a lot of different exceptions, and there's a lot of different, there could be an exception that there could be there could be another case that comes out to the Supreme Court that overrules any state court law regarding plea deals and waiving your right to appeal. So the law is always changing, and it's always subject to interpretation. So
always changing.
Something ironclad like
That's
that, it's tough to kind of hold sometimes.
Always nuances, as long as there are lawyers fighting in court for different issues.
Yes.
Gabriel, thank you so much for your analysis. We're going to get to a break, and when we come back, we're going to turn our attention back to the live trial that we are watching out of Washington State, the attempted honor killing trial. Stay with us. You're watching Court TV.
Tonight, on Closing Arguments, a Georgia teenager charged with killing her mother and stepfather. Her grandfather speaks with Court TV, giving his insight into the investigation.
closing arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law.
Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
The matriarch mastermind murder trial. Live coverage this August on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Thanks for being with us. We're going to turn our attention now back to Washington. We're watching together the attempted honor killing trial for two parents, Ihsan and Zahra Ali. They're accused of trying to choke their daughter to death after they say she ran away from home earlier that day.
Let's go back into the courtroom now. The jury is hearing from a forensic nurse examiner, still on direct.
And based on your training experience, are there certain symptoms you would expect to see from a patient who may have had pressure applied to their neck?
Yes.
And what are some of those symptoms?
Difficulty speaking. They could have change in their voice, memory loss, difficulty breathing, loss of consciousness. Pain in the neck, some bruising, abrasions, bleeding from the eyes and nose, nausea, vomiting. There could be incontinence of the bowel and bladder, things like that.
And all those symptoms that you described, do you see that in every patient that you conduct a strangulation exam on?
No.
Okay, and why is that?
Everybody's different. Everybody presents differently, and sometimes you could have significant amount of injuries, and others you could see nothing visibly, but there could be some internal injuries. It's just case by case.
Okay. Your Honor, permission to approach the witness.
You may.
Ms. Rivas, I've handed you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 82. If you could look at that exhibit and let me know when you're done looking through it. And Ms. Rivas, do you recognize Exhibit 82?
Yes.
And what is Exhibit 82?
It's my documentation of my strangulation exam with Fatima.
Okay. And would it help refresh your recollection in answering some questions? Let me rephrase my question. Would it help refresh your recollection to review and to read from your report in answering certain questions that will be asked?
Yes.
Okay.
You have permission to review your report if you are unable to answer the question directly to help refresh your recollection.
Thank you.
And Ms. Rivas, as part of the strangulation exam, do you, you indicated that you do a head-to-toe exam, but you also testify that you would ask the patient about their symptoms and concerns. As part of, in addition to those things, do you also ask the patient to sort of describe in their own words about what happened during a strangulation episode?
Yes.
And what is the purpose of asking the patient about having them relate to you what had occurred?
To To help drive my exam and the areas that I need to focus on.
Okay. And in this case, did you ask Fatima to sort of describe to you in her own words what she remembered happening?
Yes.
Okay. And did she in fact tell you what had occurred during the incident?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could, what did, please, well, let me ask you this. What did Fatima tell you about what had occurred during the alleged strangulation incident?
Well, she told me a lot, but
Ms. Rivas, I'm specifically asking you about what Fatima indicated occurred that resulted in, if any, pressure applied to her neck.
she reported to me that she was grabbed by her sweatshirt and placed in a headlock.
Okay, and did she indicate who grabbed her by her sweatshirt and placed her in a headlock?
Yes.
And who was that?
Her dad.
Okay. And what did she say? Did she tell you what happened after being placed in a headlock by her dad?
That she lost consciousness.
Okay. Does she tell you anything else that she remembers seeing or hearing?
Could you elaborate on that question?
Sure. So you indicated that she was grabbed by her sweatshirt and that she was placed in the headlock, and you indicated she lost consciousness. Does she say anything else about what she remembers seeing right before, or right after losing consciousness?
She reported that she felt dizzy.
Okay.
She reported some numbness.
Okay. Did she also indicate anything about what had occurred with her mom as part of the strangulation exam?
Yes.
And what did she say?
She said that her mom grabbed her, put her hands on her neck.
Okay. And did Fatima indicate to you that when her mom did that, what, if anything, did she do?
She asked her to stop.
Okay. And Ms. Rivas, you testified that as part of the exam, you will ask the patient about any reported symptoms they have. In this case, did you ask Fatima whether she had a headache at any point?
Yes.
And what was her response?
Yes. She had a headache.
Okay, and did she indicate whether she had the headache during the alleged strangulation, afterwards, or during the time of the exam?
May I reference my...
Yes.
You may.
Oh, sorry, Your Honor.
She reported a headache after.
Okay. And what about feeling dizziness or lightheaded? Did you ask Fatima whether she felt dizzy or lightheaded at any point?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She reported she felt dizzy and lightheaded after.
Okay. And when you say after, are you referring to after the alleged incident?
Correct.
Okay. And then did you also ask Fatima whether or not she had loss of consciousness during the incident?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She reported she lost consciousness during the incident, yes.
Okay. And then what about any memory loss? What did she report about memory loss, if any?
She reported that she was having some memory difficulties.
During the incident, afterwards, or during the time of the exam?
During the incident.
Okay. And what if, did she provide you with any other details about memory loss during the incident?
May I?
You may. You have ongoing permission
Ongoing,
to refer
okay.
to your report.
Thank you. She reported...
All right, we're going to slip in a commercial break. We'll get you back into the courtroom for more testimony right after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to Court TV Live along with Julia Janae. I'm Ted Rollins. Our focus this afternoon is on the state of Washington, where it's day 4 of the attempted honor killing trial.
The prosecution there has charged these two parents, Ihsan Ali and his wife Zara, and they say that they both committed second-degree attempted murder, that they attempted to kill their teenage daughter Fatima right in front of her high school near a bus stop.
We're listening to testimony from a forensic nurse examiner. Let's go back into the courtroom.
She reported fuzzy feeling like her whole life was flashing before her eyes.
And then what about confusion or agitation? Does she report having any confusion as part of this incident?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She had confusion during and after.
Okay. And what about any weakness or numbness? Does she report any weakness or numbness as part of this incident?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She had weakness and numbness during the strangulation.
Okay. And what about vision changes?
Yes.
And what was her response?
That she had visual changes during the exam. That everything was getting darker and darker.
Okay. And when you say, I'm trying to see clarification, you indicated that Fatima indicated that she had vision changes during the exam?
I'm sorry, during the strangulation. Correction.
And did she report whether she had any blood coming from her ear, nose, or mouth?
She did not report any, and I did not observe any.
Okay. And then what about any ringing in her ears?
She did report ringing in her ears after the strangulation.
Okay. And then what about neck pain? Did she report having any neck pain?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She had neck pain during, after, and at the time of the exam.
Okay. And then did she report whether she had a sore throat as it relates to the incident?
She did.
And what was her response?
That she had a sore throat after and at the time of the exam.
Okay. And what about any difficulty swallowing?
She reported that she had difficulty swallowing after and during the exam.
Okay. And did she report whether she had any pain with swallowing as it relates to this incident?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She did have it after and during my exam.
Okay. And then what about any voice changes or hoarseness?
She did have hoarse changes and voice, yes.
Okay. And was that, at what point does she have the voice change or hoarseness in her voice?
She reported after.
Okay. And then does she report whether she had any hyperventilation as part of this incident?
Yes, she did.
And what was her response?
After the strangulation.
Okay. And what about difficulty breathing? Did she report having any difficulty breathing?
Yes, she did report difficulty breathing.
Okay. Was it at what point?
After and during our exam.
And when you say after, are you referring to after the exam or after the incident?
After the incident.
Okay. And then does she indicate whether she had pain in any other areas of her body?
She reported pain on her left shoulder and her left hip.
Okay. And as part of the examination process, when a patient comes to you and indicate that they believe that they have been strangled, do you also ask them questions about, from their own standpoint, the sort of the level of pressure that they felt that was applied to their neck area?
Yes.
Okay. And when you ask the question, is the estimated level of pressure on a scale, or how is that? How do you ask about that question?
It's based on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the worst.
Okay. And then did you ask Fatima that question?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She said it was a 5 out of 5.
Okay. And did she indicate what her estimated length of time was as it relates to the pressure that was applied to her neck?
I'm going to reference my notes. She said about 5 minutes.
Okay. And as part of that examination process, does she, you ask her questions about, as it related to her dad, does she also make any statements about what, if anything, her mom did to her during the incident?
That she put her hands on her neck.
Okay. And did she also indicate what she was feeling or thinking was going to happen to her during the alleged strangulation?
She thought she was...
Overruled.
She thought she was going to die.
Okay. And Ms. Rivas, you talked about earlier with regards to the strangulation exam that part of it involves sort of a visual head-to-toe exam. Did you do that in this case with Fatima?
Yes.
Okay. And did you also document your observations in your report?
Yes.
Okay. And when you did the examination, well, let me ask you this question. When Fatima first arrived at the ER, did she have clothes on?
Yes.
Okay. And then as part of the examination process, was her clothes left on, or did they have to come off?
No, I asked my patients to put a gown on, a hospital gown.
And you testified that as part of the head-to-toe exam, you described the process in which you would conduct the head-to-toe exam. Did you follow that same procedure and process in this case with Fatima?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
What this nurse is testifying to says a lot for the prosecution's case. It's exactly what this victim was sharing not too long after it all happened. Let's bring in our trial attorney who's standing by. Gabriel Sepulveda-Sanchez is with us. Gabriel, what are your thoughts on this case?
Yeah, you have to show they're trying to. These are serious charges, second-degree murder of your daughter, and the thing to remember about second-degree murder is that you still have to show intent to kill. First-degree murder, there's planning, there's premeditation, there's a lot of thought that goes behind it. Second-degree murders, you need evidence that you intended to kill this person, even though it wasn't planned. Your actions and your intent was, I'm gonna end this person's life. Those are serious allegations. Those are serious charges. And what the reason the prosecutor is putting this witness on is because they're trying to show the jury that this wasn't just a way to control or subdue their daughter. She was experiencing symptoms of unconsciousness, blacking out, pain in your throat, all these different things that show that this wasn't just a headlock to control your daughter. He had intent to end her life and to cut off oxygen to her brain, which could more likely than not the intent was to kill her in that moment. So they're trying to show that this wasn't just an accident. This wasn't just him trying to control his daughter. This was like, I'm going to end. The prosecutor's trying to show the jury that he had intent to end her life right there. So that's why you're getting all these symptoms out about the strangulation and what she experienced during that time her father was subduing her. It's still tough.
Hey,
It
Gabriel,
depends how
I
the
got a
jury
question
feels
for
about
you,
it.
because
Yeah.
you said him, and that's kind of what we are all focused on, him and his. What about her? She's facing attempted murder. The mom. How does that work?
you're going to have to show that there's some compliance or a conspiracy to commit this murder. That's a tough case. The fact that they're being tried in the same trial too, I don't know what their thoughts are behind that, but there's difficulty when you have two different co-defendants, because a jury may bring, they may attribute liability to her just because she's associated with her. My thoughts were, I would really beg for a different trial, and so I'm not associated with the acts of the husband in this case. There's got to be some evidence. There's got to be some text messages, some compliance, some agreement, some sort of agreement between them to both take these actions, and that there was some sort of joint, like an accomplice liability theory, that they both agreed to kill their daughter in that moment. And I don't know if they have enough there. I don't like the fact that they're trying to both together. I think I would really ask for a separate. If I was a defense attorney, I would want a separate trial, but they know the case better than I do in this moment. So
yeah, you're highlighting a really good
they have their
contradiction, because you said initially they charged second-degree murder because they don't have to prove planning and intent and premeditation. In that way, they do have to show an intent to kill. But for the mother to be part of it, it seems that there would have to be some kind of pre-planning, talking together conspiracy just for them to get to second-degree murder on her regard.
We'll see. All right, let's go to break. When
Thanks,
we come
Gabriel.
back, we'll get you back into the courtroom for more testimony. Stay with us.